like AI was recording.
I don't know if I did it right or not.
Mr. Delgado, how are you, sir? We don't have you on video, but we can hear you.
Oh, I don't know how. I don't know. I wasn't just couldn't do it right. I guess I don't know.
You don't know how to turn your camera. Don't know how to turn your camera on.
Oh, everything's on. Okay.
There we go.
Yeah. Well, no problem. Well, welcome, Mr. Delgado, and welcome.
I'll be able to hear you. I can see you guys.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The usually you look on the Zoom screen and there's a little video icon. You just click it on and off. If that doesn't do it, it's probably the camera on your end is not functional for some reason. But anyway, let's get started. As I had Master Smith as we do our daily death by Zoom here today. 4 or 5 things. I'll kind of hit through them quickly, and then we can kind of go back to it. Number one, Master Smith and I are putting together. We're going to do a series of extraordinary teaching books. So volume 1 will be out as soon as we get it done. But what I'd love to have is I had put up the preliminary section up in the group here. It looks like this printed out. So would love to have each and every one of you go in and read through it. And if you have any feedback on ways that it sucks, share it with us privately. And if you think it's really good, we'd love to have a 5-star glowing testimonial for it that we can use widely and broadly. So that's a naked request for a review that we can use as we finish it up here.
We got a nice one from Sherry and Sifu there too.
Yeah. Thank you for that, and from James.
Stephen Dell was going to read it, I think, and then put one in. I think he made that note.
I'm just impressed Stephen can read. That was a joke. Stephen is probably next to Scott Sullivan has the biggest and broadest library. For those of you who didn't know, Scott Sullivan is our resident, internationally famous theologian and scholar who has written a book on theology as well as being a badass championship level kickboxer. Master Smith, I never recall what his record was on that, and of course, 120,000 a month BJJ school owner nowadays. So that's always exciting. And then we have all the AI assistants logging into the room. Anybody who has your AI assistant logging in, but you're not here, Herman, I'm speaking to Herman, is I'm not we do post the recording, the summary, and the transcripts and all the details in the group, but the value of being at the live meeting is you can ask questions and you can share results and do all that kind of stuff. So just having the recording is kind of like the old days. You had an audio cassette of a meeting you weren't at. Not unuseful, but not at the level that you would need to be. So Herman, show the hell up live.
And Fahad has 2 note takers. He has 2 note takers on here.
2 note takers. Fahad does, okay. But Fahad usually is here live, so I'll give him that one. And he's like triple and quadruple using AI. He's probably almost up to the level of utilization that I'm at. One of the things Fahad did is he uploaded all the books and everything and had it summarized and take lessons and stuff. So it's just some interesting thing you can do if you don't know. But anyway, so that was number one, was the blatant request for testimonials on the books. And feel free to give us any negative feedback privately, but we won't share it with anybody. Why would we? Nor if some parent comes in and rants to you, should you record it and transcribe it and post it on Reddit. I wouldn't do that either. The second thing is obviously our live meeting in Breckenridge, Colorado is next weekend. So it's starts on Friday. We'll start at Friday at about 10 a.m. It overlaps with our Black Belt retreat, which starts on Friday night and goes through Sunday afternoon. If you're going to be able to be there, and I would encourage, urge, suggest, cajole everybody possible to be there. Make sure Bob knows. And Bob, if you can send me the RSVP list this afternoon and send it over to Steve and Amanda Christensen as well, that would be great.
Yes, sir.
And one thing
but-
about that meeting that the members say, it usually jumpstarts you about 3 months. You get about 3 months worth of training in one weekend that really will accelerate your progress. So please, change, reschedule, do whatever you have to do to make it work to be there, because it's that valuable. That will give you at least 3 months worth of training in one weekend.
Yeah, and the rationale for not being in any of these things is never that I have nobody to take my classes and so forth. Just put together a little postcard, mail it to everybody, text them, email them, put a sign on the door. And the communication is all of our staff are going to go to Colorado in this case for a high level training session on how to be more effective at teaching and running the school, which is exactly what it's going to be. And, over the years, we've done just a ton of this stuff with my staff. Never had anybody. The only time you ever have anybody annoyed is when they show up and the door is locked and they didn't know it was going to be locked, which is if you do the usual and announce it in every class, put a note on the door, send 3 postcards, send 2 text messages, you're still going to have, somebody who shows up at the door and didn't pay attention.
In worst case scenario, you go and your staff or your black belts or your leadership people that you have trained can run skeleton classes where you're not doing enrollments or renewals, but they're just teaching or going through certain curriculum that you've outlined for them. So you keep it very simple, but it's that important to be there. And there's only 3 or 4 of those a year, so you don't want to miss one.
Yeah, we have 3 scheduled for next year, other than the $1 million school retreats. So, and that would be the next thing is, Bob, you're going to remind me, Matt Smith, you're going to remind me, everybody should remind me this time next year. We'll try to keep a rolling 3-year calendar. 2 years ago, we put out a 3-year calendar and then didn't update it a couple times around. But we've got all the tentative dates, and some of those are subject to change. We are dealing with trying to do another round at West Point and Annapolis and Master Smith now that our your 2nd degree black belt, our 5th degree black belt, Hung Kao is now Undersecretary of Navy. We'll have to see if we can at least work in a tour of the Pentagon or something, for one of our meetings. But of course, we haven't even tapped all of the political and different leadership people in the DC metro area.
Exactly.
We've actually only done 1 meeting in DC metro, haven't we?
I think
Unless you consider Annapolis, which is kind of a stretch.
it's an hour from DC.
Yeah. But anyway, so next year's tentative schedule, the following year and the following year, 3 years out, is posted in the group. We'll keep updating it. The exact location, hotel, and so forth is nailed down for the February meeting. If you're and our one thing we've been trying to accomplish, although Master Smith, we failed at it 2 years in a row. We ended up doing the aircraft carrier tour, the air wing tour. Hung Kao took us behind the scenes in Norfolk, Virginia, and it was about as
Fuck me.
I don't know what that was.
Chris,
Sounded like
muted.
Art. Sounded like Art, so we'll mute Art. But 2 years ago, we did the air, the USS Gerald Ford, which is the newest aircraft carrier in the fleet. We did a tour behind the scenes. We did a tour and behind the scenes of one of the helicopter aircraft wings, which Matt Smith, I found that to be the most directly educational, because what they ran us through is how they were doing all the helicopter pilot training and all the support crew training, their training cycle, the whole thing. So we did that with Hung Kao, who's now, as I just said, the Undersecretary of Navy. He's essentially, I've heard that position referred to as the CEO of the U.S. Navy. So he's in charge of the U.S. Navy and the Marine Corps, second highest civilian in that chain of command. But yeah, we went to Virginia Beach. What I was going to say is the rule in the winter meeting is to go someplace warm. And we were going to Clearwater, Florida, between the hurricane and the pandemic. Got out of that habit because it wasn't really good timing. But we went to Norfolk, Virginia, and froze our butts off at remembering it was raining too when we were there. And then we went to Dallas, thinking Dallas would be warm, and it was like the coldest weekend in Texas, probably in a 3-year period of time when we happened to be there.
I think we're foolproof for Scottsdale. I don't think we can have a cold day in Scottsdale in February.
I've been in Scottsdale when it was cold, or at least when it was.
The cold air is 50, 60.
Yeah, okay, but the mission is to finish the thought is to have the winter meeting someplace warm. And maybe we'll cycle back to San Diego. Although every time I go out to San Diego, suffer through Comic-Con, it's always pretty chilly out there too. But anyway, so that's make sure you look at the calendar. Hopefully you'll be at Breckenridge. It'll be very, very, very valuable. At the very least, make sure that you have the Scottsdale and all the other, just put all the other dates in your calendar now, so you can work around that. And as we nail down for sure hotels and facilities and so forth, we'll let you know. The one that's still a little up in the air is, so we're trying to do West Point next year, and we've got to work around weddings, football games, and graduation. So it gets a little, because the hotel we use is actually right on the campus at the U.S. Military Academy. The other thing, Master Smith, and I'll wait for a little bit later, is we'll do a little bit more of a walkthrough of the circle group and some of the resources there. But let's shift to any questions anybody has about anything to get started here, and then go from there.
Before we do the questions today, Master Oliver, we have some new members. I'd like to
good.
introduce Jonathan Penny is one of our newest members. And Jonathan, I see you're at least on video here. The Scotty was on video, but we'll get him back in a second. But looked like Ray couldn't open his video, but we'll let him talk. Tell us a little bit about your background there.
My background, I started in Kempo Karate with Jeff Gears, a name that some of you may know.
Yeah.
Back from the tournament circuit in the 80s and 90s. In 1998, I opened a school in partnership with him in fabulous Perrysburg, Ohio. And then in 2005, we wanted to kind of do different things. And so I bought him out, amicably so. And so I've been in this same location since September of 1998.
Now you're
started doing a little bit of Krav Maga for law enforcement and military, and I teach quite a bit at the police academy, and I'm a part-time police officer, but I don't work the road as much anymore. I spend more of my time training others. So.
And what is your main style?
American karate.
Yeah.
Now it's blended system.
Because you threw that Krav in there, and I want to make sure they knew you were also American karate style.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the group, and hopefully now we can double, triple, quadruple that gross, and get you to be one of our next $1 million schools.
Thank you, sir.
And Scotty, I saw you had your picture video working when you first got on. So if you want to turn on your video, if you're still there, we'll let you tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, give me 1 second here. Just gotta figure out how to put myself back on video again.
It's
Does that
usually-
work?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Oh, you're talking Scotty in Colorado, not Scotty in
Oh, was
Texas.
that the wrong one?
No. We have a Scotty in San Antonio and a Scotty in Evergreen.
Yeah, I was going Scott Miller.
There
Yes,
you go.
sir.
There you go.
Am I on video yet? Man, I feel like an old man trying to figure out
You
this.
are neither you nor Art are on video.
Okay, give me 1 second here. I might have to jump out and jump back in.
Well, why don't you just go ahead and talk, and then we'll see your face.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah,
Perfect.
give everybody a little bit of background on your school and what you're trying to accomplish and your martial arts background.
Yeah, martial arts background. Started with wrestling when I was about 5 years old. So I've started, I did that high school, a little bit in college, got into jiu-jitsu in 2008. So I've been training jiu-jitsu, but also do some of the striking arts, kickboxing, Muay Thai, kickboxing. So a bit of more of an MMA background, I guess. I figured out the video finally. Bit of an MMA background. I coach MMA fighters at the UFC level, guys that fight in the UFC. My school's in Evergreen, Colorado, so about 40 minutes outside of Denver. Nice,
About
beautiful
10
little
minutes,
mountain
about
town.
5 minutes from Master Oliver's house.
Yeah, real close to him, which is funny.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well, he lives literally pretty much in the backyard of my first home that I bought in 1985 here in Genesee. If you see the houses right there on Genesee Trail Road, Scotty, it's the one with the biggest windows that look out over the city was
Oh, cool.
the house I bought in 1985. And then after I got divorced and sold that house, I ended up moving to the one down the block there that you have to pass if you go to the stop sign and turn left.
Yeah, great area. Yeah, right now my focus is obviously just integrating the things that you guys have taught me just thus far. So just trying to catch up with that and get caught up on this up to speed on that. The system, whether it's marketing or sales or pricing or any of those things. So I've been really hitting schools hard the past couple weeks, trying to get into schools so I can teach. I do already go to a school right now. So yeah, getting into schools, building a program with a guy that was in the Coast Guard. He was the defensive tactics instructor for the Coast Guard. So we just were talking just a little bit ago and putting together something there so we can go out and teach teachers and law enforcement, first responders, that sort of thing. So yeah, just shifting my focus from kind of what I was doing to what I need to be doing to get more students in, more kids in, and like I said, integrating some of the things that you guys do. So
Hey, well, welcome to the group.
thank you.
And Ray Delgado, if you can unmute yourself. I see you're muted and unvideoed, but if you can at least unmute yourself, then you can.
Is that a word, unvideoed?
Yes. Yeah, he's not videoed, so he's unvideoed. Just like unmute, you got to unmute.
Okay.
You got to unvideo. I'm going to have to, get that phrase. There
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Hear you now.
Okay. I couldn't get the video, but at least got the voice anyway. Okay. Well, let's see. I started my training. Oh gosh, back in the 70s, and then I opened up my first school, in 1987. I did a lot of point sparring tournaments. Then I went into kickboxing, and then I started doing some professional kickboxing when I hurt somebody kind of bad, so I quit fighting and then went into teaching. So I've been teaching ever since. And my whole thing is that we were, I've been up and down because of the economy. And my main goal is to get my staff, up to date with what's going on, and get them squared away so they can go on their path forward and progress and have a future for themselves.
Awesome.
That's my main thing.
Yeah.
Tell them where you're located.
I'm located in Vallejo, California, close to San Francisco.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we have a couple of schools that are just north of you.
Yeah.
That would be Marty and Bob. Bob, who am I thinking of? Santa Rosa. Ben Brown and Marty Callahan
Okay. Yeah.
are up in the Santa Rosa area. So excellent. Yeah, I spent a lot of time out in that area. I used to work quite a bit with Ernie Reyes and
Oh,
Tony
yeah.
Thompson and
Tony Thompson. Right.
the West Coast gang, as well as with Tom Callis before he lost his mind
I'm
back
close
in the day.
I get to see Dave Kovar, Tim Kovar.
Yep.
I get to see them.
Yep. Yeah, I've been friends with them since the early '80s or
Oh,
mid
yeah.
'80s, I guess. But anyway, welcome, guys. Now it's kind of like old timers a week here in the meeting. About half of the people who are on the meeting are people who like worked with me in the 10 years ago, 15 years ago. John, how long ago was it we were working together?
I want to say it was 07 or 08.
Yeah,
Somewhere right around there.
And
And-
maybe even longer ago with James.
yeah.
James, how long ago with you?
2003, sir.
There you
Yeah.
go.
I was with you guys
Yeah.
from 2003 till about 2010.
There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah. I think year to date, about 2/3 of our new members are old members who figured out the grass wasn't greener. So it's an interesting dynamic, but certainly Edward fits in that category, and Master Delgado fits into that category, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's interesting. But let's
I think Debbie had a
Spec-
question, sir, before we introduced everybody.
go ahead, Debbie.
Oh, me. Okay,
Yeah,
so
you're Debbie.
Friday, we have our second PE gym teacher for the day. And the first place we went, we had a great result. I think we had like 5 students show up, which I was okay with. We had 1 enrolled. And so we haven't, but they wouldn't do the after school enrichment program because they felt it was a fundraiser. So I have to figure out how to verbalize it on Friday to the other school. We're going to do a PE teacher for the day. And I need to know how to pitch the after school enrichment program without it sounding like a fundraiser.
Yeah.
Sometimes they want a fundraiser, so
Well,
it's
They don't. That's what they
Yeah,
told
yeah,
me.
that's
yeah.
why you asked.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
if the same
Well-
school,
Different school.
Here. Let's catch everybody up on the background. And Scotty was talking about doing a program at the elementary school as well a minute ago. We just got off of a meeting with our Thornton location, and they just completed one that had 130 kids registered in the program. And so on the after school enrichment programs, the ratios tend to be, if you do it right, and we were diagnosing some things that they didn't do right on this one, but if you do it right, you should get about 20% of the student body of the school registered for the program. So if there's 500 kids, you get about 100, more or less. If there's 300 kids, about 60. If there's 700 kids, 140. And then you should be able to enroll about 1/3 of those. So if you had 100 in the program, that'd be 30 enrollments, directly into the school. And then, of course, that gives you 70 to follow up with. Going back to the PE teacher for the day, and I know Riley, you did a PE teacher for the day, and Deb and James, you did a PE teacher for the day that had the same problem. And the problem is, if I go and teach a PE teacher for the day, give out guest passes, say, hey, come down and see us on Saturday, I get very small results, right? So, 500, if I teach 500 kids, maybe I get 5 to show up, right? Well, I'm happy to have 5 intros, but if it's 500 kids and, I worked my heart out on that, I'd like to have more results. And the more results piece of that is, and you want to think of this in every marketing activity you do, is anytime you have an interaction, whether it's distributing literature or it's talking to people one-on-one, you want to always leave the interaction with their contact information, their name, their phone number, their mailing address, their email address. It sounds like a natural when you hear it, but most school owners, when they go do a booth, they end up passing out flyers and waiting to only talk to people who want to schedule an appointment, or go in and do a PE teacher for the day and then don't get ahead of time permission slips. And
So, Master Oliver, I have not
Yeah.
been able to get those here in Pinellas. How do I get their information a different way?
Well, let me say it differently. You didn't get it on the last one. Right? Is, anytime you say in Pinellas, you generalize it to like the entire school system rather than the one interaction you had. Is that a fair thing to say?
Absolutely.
But let me, I'm trying to organize these a little bit, but let me go back to your original question. Is what I was trying to do is make sure everybody's on the same page with this. What I found over the years is if I approached any of the things that I was going to do as a fundraiser for the school, using that language, what happened with the schools is, as most parents would know, is they got stupid about doing all these fundraisers, right? If you were a parent in an elementary school, the kids would be out hawking chocolate bars one month, and then the next month they're hawking Christmas wrapping tape, and there were just tons of companies figuring out that was a good source of revenue for them. And by the way, most of that stuff, the school wasn't getting a very big percentage of the sale, even, right? They're selling $5 chocolate bars, and the school was getting $1 or something like that. And what happened is there was a backlash of parents saying, you guys have gotten ridiculous. Let's not be doing this anymore. What I saw with my son's school, which was a blatant lie, but what they would do is every time there was like a big parent meeting or something, they'd say, our one and only fundraiser for the year is our fun run. Well, it wasn't the only fundraiser they had for the year. They had a whole bunch of after-school enrichment programs that charged money. I knew enough to know that they were getting, the Lego gal was giving them a cut, and all of those things were giving them a cut. Plus, one of the big publishers would come in and do a book fair. I mean, like all the elementary schools do a book fair, and their cut on the book fair was both a percentage of the gross on the book sales, plus it was a good opportunity to beg the parents to buy books that the teachers asked for in the classroom. So when you went into the book fair, there was a big list of all the books that the teacher requested for her classroom for the parents to buy in the book fair, plus they were getting a cut. But what they didn't want to do is they didn't want to admit any of that to the parents, because the parents were already pissed off about fundraisers, right? So what my rule of thumb became over the years is never approach that the after school enrichment program is a fundraiser. Never use that terminology. What I would say about it, though, is I would say what we do is we come in and do, we call it PE Teach for the Day, but we do a single class with all the kids. They give them some exposure to the program. In that, we're going to be talking about focus your eyes, focus your ears, focus your mind, how to be more effective in school. We're going to be talking about the overall values of martial arts. We're not going to be teaching them anything where they're going to kick and punch each other on the playground or any of that stuff. There won't be any violence. We're really teaching them the values and the respect that martial arts teaches, to be aware of that. But also it'll give them a little sneak preview of the after school enrichment program that we do. And we can do it before school or after school. And by the way, as an aside, I've done it before school, I've done it after school, and I've done it at lunch hour. The lunch hour thing was what didn't work for shit. The before school worked fine, and like at Chase's elementary school, they didn't start till 9, so they had a lot of programs that started at 8. So parents would bring the kids, and they would do the Lego thing or something before school, and then start school. So before school or after school. But when I'm presenting it, what I say is, we do a registration fee for it. We keep it minimal. However, we're going to donate 100% of the materials, uniforms, the lessons, our time and energy, everything that they're going to need for the program. We're going to donate all that to the school. And then whatever registration fees come in, we donate that back to the school. And the rest of the incentives is usually that goes to the PE budget, and in our case, all over town, for some reason, in Colorado, all the PE teachers wanted climbing walls. So, I could point to there's probably 25 climbing walls in and around the Denver metro area that were funded by Mile High Karate. But especially when you're talking to a PE teacher, if you don't know, they get usually like $120 a year or something, some ridiculously tiny budget to buy things. So if I come in and it's going to be $49 and, maybe we're going to get 100 kids in it, hell, that's more budget from one event than they would get in, 20 years. So they get really excited about that. But again, notice the language, because see, if I go at it the other way and I say, let's say I go to the PTO and I say, here's an idea for a fundraiser. Oftentimes my response is, well, we only do one fundraiser a year. We promised the parents we weren't going to do any more fundraisers. So, I had one person approach it that way and they got, well, we already have our fundraiser lined up for this year. Maybe we'll put it on the list next year to consider it. Well, that's not the answer I want. Go ahead, Deb.
So pitch it to the PE teacher on Friday?
Well, who are you meeting with on Fridays?
I have no idea. The
Oh,
PE
okay.
teachers, yeah. I mean, I've got 5th graders and then 2nd graders, 3rd, 1st, kindergarten, and 4th graders. So we're there from 8:50 in the morning to 2:50 in the afternoon.
Oh, okay. So you're doing a PE teach for the day already.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, I would sit down first with a PE teacher as soon as you get a break and say, if you're like what we're doing and find it valuable, what we typically do is we follow this up with an after school enrichment program. And what that would be is 6 lessons before school or after school. They get an exposure to the program with what we're doing right now. And then it gives us a chance to really drill in the lessons. And, we have the full packet and everything in the circle group. So, I always did the big packet to give them and say, here are the 6 lessons we do: respect for teachers, respect for parents, clean your room, thank you, I love you, and so forth. It's primary about character development and respect, but it's also a fun martial arts class. And we get a little bit more time with them so we can teach them, all the things not to, so they don't go play on the playground and so forth with them. But yeah, I would just present it to the PE teacher early in the morning. And what you may end up with is he or she is super enthusiastic about it. And, at lunch break or something, they march you down to the principal and pitch the principal or whoever they have to get permission from to do it. Or they may just, say, yeah, well, let's go with it. The objections that you get along the way, one is don't approach it as fundraiser, but tell them, all the registration money that comes in goes straight back to the school. You guys have to decide how it's allocated. Usually it goes to the PE budget, right? I've had them be more in an argument behind the scenes over who gets the money from the thing on whether they should do it or not. But the second thing is the objection sometimes is, well, we have after school daycare and they get the gym from X time to X time. Or there's other activities that are going on. A lot of times it's just the objection is space constraints. And so, when something like that is going on, I always go talk to the person who does the after school care. And I say, we're going to do this 6-lesson thing. It would be, let's say Tuesday, Thursday, right after school. It would be a marvelous opportunity. All the other kids in the school are going to pay $49, but the kids who are already here with you could do it for free. So it would be a marvelous opportunity for them to jump into the program. It would give a fun activity for you to keep them, engaged for 6 hours during the program. And then so a lot of them, I just built a relationship with whoever was going to be in conflict, right up front. And then, they were not only not objecting to it, but pulling for it. And again, go back to your question is, who do you talk to? I always think about it this way. And I don't know, I've been in and out of probably 150 elementary schools. Every one of them had some kind of different subtle power structure. Who has the most pull, who's kind of in a leadership role. I've dealt with PE teachers who were like the assistant principal because they were so good and been there for so long. And I've also talked to PE teachers who had a foot and a half out the door, and all they wanted to do was talk about bowling and sit on their Mac in their office and do nothing. But I've had schools where there's somebody in charge of after school enrichment programs and then daycare, and they were the person who could set this up. I've also had them where nobody in the school was allowed to do anything but the principal. I've seen schools that had a vice principal, and the vice principal handled all that stuff. And I've seen some where the PTA or PTCO or whatever organization they're part of handles stuff. My basic skepticism is I really need to be dealing ultimately with paid staff of the school, not with the parent group, right? Although if the parent group is a good foot in the door, great, right? So one way to get your foot in the door is just start showing up for all of the parent meetings, the PTA meetings, PTCO. Carlos, we've heard him several times here. He was doing that. He just showed up for PTA meetings and got welcomed with open arms, and they set a bunch of stuff up with him. But when I do that, I want to use that as the foot in the door to start meeting the actual staff rather than thinking of that as the primary thing. The second element of that was I wanted to come back to where I was mentioning Riley as well as you and James. The permission slips is here's what a permission slip is. There's several versions of it in the circle group. I've done everything from very elaborate ones to very simple ones. But the permission slip is your way of getting, and now you don't say it this way to the school staff, but on your side, it's your way of getting name, address, phone number, email address. And it also gives you an opportunity to kind of poll them and say, we're going to provide, 2 free weeks of lessons or something like that. And if you'd be interested in us contacting you to schedule an appointment, check yes, right? And what that is giving you is permission to contact them. But what happens is if I go into a school of 500 kids and I get back 400 permission slips, that gives me 400 new names on the email list, 400 new names to mail. It gives me, let's say, half of them that check yes, they're interested in more information to immediately follow up by phone and text. It gives me a real database of people who happen to be, down the street over there in that elementary school who are the right age and the right neighborhood. So it gives you a marvelous start there. What kind of permeated the industry, it started being called School Talks, was my idea by way of Greg Silva through Barry Vanover, is go into Mrs. Jones's 3rd grade class and teach a class and say to everybody, on Saturday morning, we have a special class you can come to. And by the way, here's a guest pass. Well, the problem with that is not that it doesn't work at all. It just works poorly enough that most people, when they're doing it over and over and over again, they get frustrated at all the time and effort they're spending with pretty minimal results. So it works a little bit, but what it did is it missed the key component that made it work, You know, as Smith, you remember back in I was probably already doing these in 83, but you know, certainly 84. You know, when I figured out that I could get name, address, and phone number, and then you know, later email addresses and follow up, you know, that was a game changer. But the two game changers are, I don't want to go into an elementary school and do a demo, right? I bring 10 kids and they do kicks and punches and everything, and everybody sits on their ass. What I want to do is I want to teach a class. I want them up participating, acting as a student. That psychological shift, it makes 1,000% difference. And then I don't want to just say to kids, remember, parents aren't hearing it, say to kids, hey, come down this Saturday. What I want to do is I want to get their contact information so that I can follow up. As far as presenting it to the school, and it certainly is true, every now and then you're going to have somebody that gives you grief in the school. But what their objection sometimes is, well, by law, we can't give you kids' names and phone numbers. And my response to that is, I'm not asking you to give me anything. Well, what do you mean? We've had thousands of kids and parents in our school. Parents can give us whatever information they want to give that they feel comfortable giving. That's what we're asking you to do. Just pass the information out to the kids. The parents are going to, you know, give us whatever information they're comfortable giving. And if they're interested, great. If they're not interested, that's fine too. But, you know, our insurance requires, we know, you know, we can't be out teaching classes. And, you know, if something comes in, you know, 3.5 years or 4 years, whatever the statute of limitation is, if somebody tries to say there was an injury. And by the way, we've never had that, but our insurance company requires we have permission slips and we know who we've taught, right? So that's just one of the requirements we need to accomplish. And you know, again, I won't say never, you know, with hundreds of schools, you know, I had one, I'll be nice and say which, you know, vice principal of the school got all the permission slips, the registration forms, and then marked out all of the information but their first name with a magic marker. So I had somebody else who took my permission slip and marked out all the other information and sent it home with his name and signature. So you'll get that from time to time. But again, the objection, which is true, is they'll say, by law, we're not allowed to give out kids' names and phone numbers and contact information. And the answer is, I'm not asking you to give out anything. This is the parents are providing the information. So that usually, you know, handles it. And then why do you need that? Is that something you're going to market the hell out of? No, in fact, you know, we have a little check mark on there if they're interested, so we can follow up with them. But if they're not, that's fine too. But we do need to have, you know, for our insurance purposes, we need to know who we've taught, and you know, make sure the parents are aware since they're not going to be there. And you know, by the way, if I go out to a PAC meeting at the Boy Scouts, it's going to be the same thing. It's just the parents are probably going to be there, so we're going to, you know, we're going to give them you know, waivers, you know, information sheets to fill out. Any time we're teaching a class, we're going to do that information. It's just that if you're in a situation where the kids are there without the parents, I can't take a bunch of clipboards and have the parents fill it out. And I'm not, you know, I can't have the kids fill it out. I want to make sure the parents have filled it out and returned it ahead of time.
So in
Is that
Pinellas County, the weird thing is there are no gyms in the school.
Mhm.
Everything, I guess, is just outdoors. So we just did one. I set one PE teacher for the day. We got one coming up this Friday, and then I'm working on one for November. I think it's the 11th. And I had I don't know who it was. I think it was the principal that called me Monday and said on the bottom, and this is both of the schools that I've gone to, they've called and said, we have to put that, James, do you remember the verbiage? It was like Pinellas County School Board and Cypress Woods Elementary does not endorse or something this
Yeah, that's pretty
program.
much it. They just don't,
Okay.
it's not connected to their school, that's all.
Yeah, they're not endorsing it or recommending it or whatever. That's fine. Yeah. So if somebody gets mad at you, they're oh, and by the way, when I do these packets, one of the things that I would do is I would go through, your local, in Colorado is the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, but wherever somebody goes, in your case in Florida, to do the background check, if they, like I couldn't find anywhere in the country where this is required for martial arts schools, but typically for daycares, there was all the scandal and craziness that went with daycares, a few years ago, is typically daycares are required to run a background check on everybody. Certainly the schools are required to do that. Is, figure out what your statewide is, do a background check on everybody who's going to be interacting with it, right? Make sure you don't hire anybody who won't pass the background check, by the way. That should be obvious, but I come across that a lot. But do the background check on everybody, include that in the packet. And then what I did with our insurance at the time, we were using K&K, is, I just went onto their site and did a proof of additional insured. And so for our schools, I had proof of additional insured for Jefferson County schools, for Douglas County schools, for Denver County schools, for Boulder, and for Adams County, and for Aurora schools and Cherry Creek schools. And just, I always put that in there, right? So I had a proof of additional insured for each of the districts. I had the background checks on everybody, tons and tons of parent testimonials, the individual lessons that were going to be in the school, and then a write-up describing the program. But all of that went in the packet. So right up front, I'm getting rid of the how do we know that you guys are credible, and I'm getting rid of, I've got, here's proof of insurance. But then my excuse is, our insurance company requires, and I've heard them say, well, our insurance covers. Well, yeah, but you know, um, for us to do something, we want to make sure that we have, permission slips ahead of time, and we just put it in the file for, if anything ever comes up. That help? But and again, just to reiterate, think of the school as being, there's all kinds of doors to get in, right? One door to get in is you figure out who your most excited parent is, and go through the list, find an excited parent in each school, have them walk you in and introduce you to everybody, right? That's one foot in the door. But foot in the door, I've had it be where I couldn't get a meeting with anybody, and I just showed up on the playground after school, and whoever was shepherding the kids, I talked to them, and they were usually the person in charge of after school daycare. So I just talked to them and tell them what we were going to do, and maybe we can come in and do a class for all the kids, because all they're doing is, running around the playground. And would go in and do a little thing with them. And then when I did a little thing with them, I say, how did you like that? Oh, that was great. Can you walk in and introduce me to the PE teacher? Oh, sure. Let's go do that now. And then, work the chain up from there. But within each school, there's going to be different people who are like the ones who can get it done. All I'm looking to do is thump until I find somebody super excited. Usually I have found the easiest person to get excited is either the PTO, PTCO, whatever is easy, but the person in charge of after school care, or the PE teacher, and the PE teacher is way more likely to be the person who can get it done, get facilitated, and so forth. Even if it's so that they can sit in their office and play on their Mac and not have to work for that. Deb, does that help?
Yes, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Let's
You're very
go
welcome.
rock it on Friday.
There you go.
And James
There
does
you
a
go.
great job teaching them.
Oh,
I
good.
teach the younger kids. I'll do the kindergarten, first grade, sometimes the second grade, because that's my forte. But second to fifth grade is more what he does. And he does a great job with it. It's just getting to the next step. So the first one, okay, we got one student that enrolled, and great kid. Family absolutely loves it, gave us a fantastic review. I did the yellow belt guarantee because they were hesitant. Oh, and by the way, I've done 13 upgrades in the past 2 weeks.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you. And so I just want a little bit more on this next one. And then the third one is, I don't know if anybody else has it. It's called the Great American Teach-In.
Yeah, that's a national thing.
Oh, okay. So that'll be our third one. So that means we had one in September, one in October, and we'll have one in November. So
Good.
we're working hard.
Yeah.
Hey, don't miss out. You know, the school programs, especially for our new members, it's there's more moving parts in doing one of those. But the live events that we do, like you know, with the Halloween stuff coming up, with you know, local farmers markets, with county fair, with any other kind of place where people gather, those are the simple ones, and all you need is a spin wheel, and most people are going to get more bang for the buck until they learn how to do the school programs. They do take a little more training, so we like you to focus on, and the reason we were doing the school program in September and August was because that was back to school, so that's the best time to do it. And then as the year goes, it's better to do it again than at the first of the year. But make sure that you get some of these other, there's so many of these, you know, movie theater, county fair, any of those activities that you can go and set up your prize wheel and a table and come over, spin the wheel, win a prize. It's so easy. And most people that are doing those are getting, you know, if they only get 50 leads, then they're disappointed because it's usually 100.
All right, you're going to abuse me for what I'm about to say, and I know that, and it's fine to do it.
You are used to that every time you open your mouth, right?
I am. Pretty much. I work with my husband, so enough said. It's just James
I was just impressed. I was just impressed you were getting him off the beach to, you know, teaching these elementary schools.
Right? But so it's just James and I. So currently we're redeveloping. We had a terrible, we never should have left Master Oliver. We did.
You know, expand on that, you know, while you're on that topic.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I've done more in the past 2 months since we've been back with you than all these other idiots.
I use the word bozo, but go ahead.
Bozo is better. So anyhow, I lost my track of my train of thought there.
I'll pick up on that for you, because I remember when I left you, sir, you told me these exact words. You said, "I think you're making a mistake, but okay." You're right.
So now we're back to he and I putting in 50, 60 hours a week. So Master Smith, how do we do external events if he's, so like last night, I had a class, he had a class, I had a class, he had a class. Weekday. It was busy. Oh my God, James, I didn't tell you this. We had 51 students last night, which that's been a long time since we've had that. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we have classes. It's like, how do I go out and do these external events?
Well,
yeah,
now or on the weekend, but during the summer they have more during the the weekdays, but most of them are on the weekends. So, one of you runs a school and the other one goes and does it until you train, because we always trained our black belts to do it. We trained our parents even. We even had parents that would do it because it's a simple, it's not a big script to learn. So these kind of things. Sherry, you want to fill her in there a little bit?
Well,
Sherry
before you do before
wants
before you
to-
do that, go ahead, Sherry.
Well, we have the same situation with me and Guang. And so what I've been doing is scheduling because I do the same thing as you. I do first intros. Well, I don't know if that's the same as you, but I do first intros and enrollments. And so I just schedule them. Whenever I schedule them, I block off the external events and I go do the external events. I don't know.
Yeah. And then he teaches the class. That's a good idea.
Yeah, let me give you a different answer. I mean, and roll back to what you were saying a minute ago, Master Smith, is the elementary school outreach programs can flood you with so many students you can't handle them by themselves. But the rule is every month you should have 20 different things going on. And so if you're just relying on one thing, it can be a problem. I've learned my lesson over and over and over the years. We were doing so well buying full page ads in the TV guide on page 3 that when news, and early on that stopped working. It was a problem for a while. And we were doing probably thousands of enrollments. At one location, I did 460 in 9 months. The other locations are probably about half of that. So, that's 1,500 enrollments in one year. But that all was happening like the year before Columbine hit, right? And all of a sudden we got shut down. I mean, I had 3 locations, including the one that I talk about doing 460 enrollments. The location that I was in was 3 miles from Columbine, and another location that was 2 miles from Columbine, another one that was 3 miles from Columbine. So we had students from at all 3 schools from there. So anytime you're relying on one thing, you're at risk of external situation. Newspapers kind of stop working. You get shut down in elementary schools. And if I have like one big live event, there's the county fair that happens, and every year we get 500 leads. Well, in Florida, you could have a hurricane, you could have hail, you could have whatever. Here we could have a tornado, we could have hail, we could have a blizzard, pretty much any time of year. The rule is Murphy's Law is real. And anytime you're counting on one thing to carry your day or a couple of things, you're going to be screwed, right? So rule number 1 is to have 20 things going on. Rule number 2 is to back up what Master Smith was saying. Setting up a table at a local fair is a lot easier than to deal with the politics and in and out of the public schools, right? So anytime you can get that, all of those going on. The fall thing, the idea is the back to school days is like a single biggest thing over the year. But also now in schools, you have harvest festivals, Halloween things, holiday things, so live events in the schools. You also have the ability to do PE teacher for the day, after school enrichment programs for Children's Hospital, charitable fundraiser flyers. All 3 of those things work at different levels. But let me answer your question differently, Deb, is what I would do with my schools over the years is I did the grand openings and I did turnarounds, right? So periodically, I would put myself in whichever the locations was doing the worst. And I would pull it up to number 1 by a big margin. And I had learned from Jeff Smith that, if you have a bunch of schools and you have the one that's doing the worst and all of a sudden it's kicking everybody's ass, is it gets rid of everybody's excuses. And whoever was number one, it embarrasses them enough to get off their ass. And whoever's number two or three, it embarrasses them enough to get off their ass. And then I can put somebody in, well, it used to be that last place school, which is now the first place school. And, I would threaten them with, cutting their testicles off with a rusty knife if they let it drop more than 10% when I put it in there. But I mean, literally, it's okay. I'm now giving you the number one school. You have no excuses. You just need to keep it where it's at. But the point of that story is it was a Herculean effort for 3 to 6 months. The longest I ever did that was 9 months. And that's the story I tell about 486 students. It was a Herculean effort and exhausting. But when you're taking a school that's at a low ebb and you're trying to give it a big jump start, nothing succeeds like add 100 students in a couple of 3 months. And in your case, add 100 students in 60 days at the new much higher price point, and then renew them, and all of a sudden you're at a $60,000-$70,000 a month addition to the school, right? So it feels exhausting, but to grow a school over 2 years or grow a school over 90 days, let's say it takes more work over 2 years than over 90 days for two reasons. One, over 2 years, attrition is really going to catch up to you, right? So if I put a whole bunch of people in the school in 90 days and jump it by 100 or 150 students, I'm not fighting dropouts as badly quickly, right? But also, at our current price points and everything, if I add 100 students to the school in 90 days, I added 40,000 in revenue to the school. Now I can go hire a couple full-time people. I have some breathing room to train them. I can put them out on that stuff. On the live event boosts and so forth, that's an easy thing to train up. So I can get parent volunteers, I can get leadership students, I can get black belts trained up to do that stuff, and they can do a pretty good job at it. But the main thing is all guns a-blazing. And James, that's back to where I was kind of picking on you last week, is forget everything else. Let's add 100 students. And if you add 100 students at $397 a month, you've added, it's easy math, 40,000 a month in revenue quickly. And if they paid 100 students paid 500 down, you've got an extra 50,000 in revenue in 90 days. That gives me plenty of budget to go hire some people. It gives me plenty of budget to funnel up more money into Facebook advertising, direct mail advertising, Google advertising, and so forth. And it gives me some cushion to go from there.
So Master Oliver, do you do, okay, so I've gotten to where my upgrades, I've got them doing 400 down and first month tuition. So I had 797 was their point. What about people that are
we like to not cover upgrades or renewals on this one,
I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
meeting, because there is a lot more moving parts that need to be done. And if we get sidetracked on that, then we're not going to be focused on getting the 100 students that he's talking about.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I understand, but my question was going
Go ahead.
the new students coming in.
Mhm.
Am I charging them something more than just their first month tuition?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. What I would like to see the presentation be is, and we can go through the whole. Well, we won't do it now. Maybe we'll do it on Thursday.
We need
But
to go
I would-
through, you were going to go through the circle before we run out of time.
Yeah, and we're actually over our typical hour anyway, but that's okay. I would like to see at the enrollment conference presenting, normally it's 800 to register. Since you came in from XYZ, we give you a $300 discount if you go ahead and finalize your enrollment today. So it's just 500 in the first month. And so I'd like to see when they enroll, they're paying 500 plus 397, so 897. And then they're paying $397 a month now, and that's on a 12-month enrollment. And then what happens in the sales conversation is some people will say, you know, we'll go through it more tomorrow, but some people will say, well, I can do the monthly. I didn't know I had to pay that much. And, you know, I can say, is that going to work for the budget? And a lot of times they say something to the effect of, yeah, I can't do that until I get paid on the 15th. I can't do that until I get paid on the 1st. Okay, well, what'll work for you today? I can do the 397. I just can't do 397 plus 500. Okay, well, let's do that. And notice I'm not negotiating. Okay, let's do that. And so then they give me the 397. I do the agreement, and then I go back and say, and the 500 you said would work on the 15th. Oh yeah, that's fine. Or they say it'll work on the 1st. Okay, and I normally set up the first monthly tuition on the 1st. Well, the two of those work. Oh no, I can't do both. Okay, well let's push the first monthly off the month. Can you do that? Sure. Right. So I just don't get into a back and forth. But yeah, what I'd like to see, and there's multiple reasons for it. One reason is they're paying a bigger initial tuition. I hate the word down payment, but they're paying a bigger initial tuition. I mean, I don't like monthly payment or down payment because it sounds like you're buying a car. Here's your contract for the X amount down, and here's X amount a month. You know, it gives people a negative emotional tweak. You know, if I say the initial tuition to get started is X, and then it's, you know, the tuition is X, you know, it doesn't tweak those emotional buttons. There's a great book, I think it was by Joseph Sugarman, called Triggers, about, you know, how different words, you know, get people to respond emotionally. But that's one reason is it makes it a more solid enrollment, right? So the second reason is once we, you know, right now we're talking a lot about a bunch of labor intensive marketing activities. But if I was doing direct mail or let's say Facebook advertising, a lot of our very successful schools on their Facebook advertising, we've got an agency that handles it for them, but they may be paying $50 or $75 per lead by the time you get everything in, which means they're then paying like $175 for an appointment, which then means they're paying $300 for an intro, which then means they're paying $600 for an enrollment. Well, $600 for enrollment is fine. I'm in good shape with that. But if I can liquidate it, in other words, the day they enroll, I'm whole, or the day they enrolled, I've made some money, then it's much easier to keep refunding that, right? You know, from a direct response marketing standpoint, if it took me 3 months to make my money back, it'd be okay. But what I'm always trying to do, my goal for everybody here is whatever you had to spend to get a new student, you get the money back day one when they enroll. That makes sense? And then third, of course, is it just accelerates your cash flow. If I do 20 enrollments and on those 20 enrollments, they each paid an average of $500 or $600, I've got an extra $12,000 in revenue. You know, whatever that is over and above what I normally would have had. But, you know, if I add 500 times 20, that's an extra 10,000. And that's non-trivial because once you're at break even, then every additional penny that comes into the school is net profit. And it's additional revenue that comes into the school without me having to nickel and dime people to death. That makes sense? Okay. Matt Smith, you want me to and I had mentioned going to the circle group a little bit. Any other questions here as we go through this? No?
And I think everybody on here is also in quick start. So we could even go on the circle. So you could actually spend a little more time. Go over it tomorrow on the circle group, because I know we're over your over the meeting time already. So
yeah, I can take 30 seconds and then we can come back tomorrow. It'd be great. But
just to log on and show them where a couple things are, and then we'll talk about them tomorrow. And in the meantime, today it would help if they could log on to the things you're going to show them, and then they have any questions about any of that, we can discuss that tomorrow.
Yeah, well, you know, on the meeting already, you know, James and Debbie, you've been very, very, very active in the group. Sherry, you've been very active in the group. A couple of other people have been. What you have is you have at least a couple of ways to get into this. You can get into it on your phone or your tablet. So if you have an iPad or you have an iPhone, just go to the App Store, make sure you have Circle Community downloaded. Once you log on, it'll just take you directly into that community. And if you once you're logged into it, just go to martialartswealthmastery.com. And we're also going to put a link from Martial Arts Wealth and from wherever else to it. But just martialartswealthmastery.com takes you directly in there. But what I would say in each section, so with quick starts, what I always do is I just keep it on this line up here. It says feed. So feed just shows me everything that I have access to that's new as I come through. And then notifications will also tell me. So if you have notifications turned on your phone or on your iPad, any new posts and stuff, you'll get notifications. But in each section, there's three main areas. There's the discussion area, there's resources. So anytime we're talking about something like, say, permission slips, I've been putting all that kind of stuff in the resources section. So, go and look like this. We're talking about the after school enrichment program. Here's all the different handouts and so forth. Here's permission slips for a live event thing, et cetera. So all the different resources for things that we've been talking about. Here's a couple of examples of live event booths that were pretty good. So always go in and look in the discussions, but
have the booth that decorated the first time. That's something that you build up over time. Just a spin wheel and a couple of signage and the clipboards, and you're good.
Yeah, but so within this, there's the discussion area and there's the resources area. And anything new that comes in, if you just stay on the feed, you'll see it. But make sure you go through resources and anything that's valuable that you're looking at. In this case, I'm looking at the Small School Accelerator, or here at Quick Start, is and Jonathan Bob put this up while he was talking to you on the phone, that phone scripting stuff and live event outline. But pretty much everything that you're going to need is in here. Everybody definitely should have this downloaded and printed out, the quick marketing checklist. And this was an example of an annual marketing plan. But also down here, a lot of people miss this. On the bottom left of the group are all the different, and probably all the different suppliers and resources that we suggest. So here's a link to a software application and a merchant provider. The merchant provider is Jeff Cole, but it's a simple software. In fact, it's Pay Simple, a simple software that does really effective billing and merchant services. Here's a link to all kinds of different artwork that you have available. Anything that you see in here, we got rid of the print on demand because it really wasn't being used. But anything you see in here is all available in editable form. So anything that doesn't show directly a download link, just to let us know. And Merrick, see right here is the download links on everything, so you can download all the art files and use them in any way you want. Is this making sense so far? So on the bottom of the screen, as I was saying, are all the different links to different resources: direct mail, video clip distribution, AI, handy mail, 3D mail. This is Kate, Link Selling, who's our agency for Facebook advertising. This is Go To Karate, which Master Moody works with them also on websites and Google Ads and so forth. But take some time to go through this. And here's another app that we recommend, OneSub, aka Schedule Once. And what it does is it interacts with your calendar. It'll automatically remind somebody by text 3 times, by email 3 times or 4 times, and gives them a chance to reschedule their appointments. Also gives you a scheduling link that you can send to somebody so they can schedule their own appointment. So that's a quick run through. But what I would do is just every day go through, post whatever your results are recently, If you did a PE teacher for the day and you got X results, whether it's good or bad, post them and we'll give you feedback. Again, Sherry, you've been very, very good at that. James and Deb, you've been very good at that. But make sure you're going in, interacting with it. The thing I would say first is every time we're going to have a meeting, before this meeting or before the Thursday meeting, just go in and post whatever questions you have. And Master Smith, myself, Mr. Dunn, Master Moody, we all look at that before the meetings, and I'll always try to address anything that hasn't been addressed. Sometimes the questions they get asked in the discussion forum are much easier to address live and interactively than they are with a few sentences in a discussion forum. Matt Smith, anything else on that?
Yeah, if they'll just go in there and there's so much information in there, and don't forget to use, there's a search function in there where you can type in your question, and then it'll pop up all the information about that question, just like a Google search. And that'll give you a lot of information, and this will help you acclimate much quicker, because all new members have questions, but a lot of times they think of them in the middle of the week before the meeting, and by the time the meetings get here, they forgot them. So write those questions down. Go into the circle group and research it a little bit. See if you can find that question. See if you can find some links to a video about it, or printed material about it, or a post about it. So just don't forget to use that. That's a real good extra tool that's going to help you. Yeah, show us real quick where that search is, Master Oliver.
Yeah, it's right here. But I was going to point out, Matt Smith, since you're specifically proud of this one, this A to Z grassroots marketing course is what you keep referring to as the 4 hours of 50 ideas you can do grassroots marketing. So it's in this as well. So there's 2 or 3, the ultimate referral machine and the ambassador program. The ambassador program is a referral mechanism that again, if you're at 150, 200 students, you really should be using that. If you're below 100, I don't think anybody on the meeting is, but if you're below 100, it's probably not worth spending the time on. And then the ultimate referral machine is basically a birthday party without it being their birthday. It's the pizza party idea, but those two are useful as well. But you can go through those courses as well. And then we have several others that haven't been published yet that we're in the process of building out. So they'll be coming online the next few months.
Okay, and then we'll spend more time on that tomorrow.
Yeah. Any questions on anything else before we call it a day? No? Well, I will just remind you, make sure you're exhausted, because October is best time of the month for beating the bushes on grassroots marketing. Best time of the year, best month of the year is Halloween, harvest festivals, pumpkin patches. It just is endless the number of places you can go, and a lot of them are non-obvious. One of the best things we've had over the years is the butterfly pavilion. We can send somebody out for 4 hours and they do a Halloween trick-or-treat thing, and we'd get 112 appointments or 87 appointments or one thing or another just for like 4 hours. So you want to look at all the different places, which is the trunk or treats. The churches do a lot of the trunk or treat things. Shopping centers do a lot of stuff. Any of the places that, the schools might take the kids on an outing, that would be the Butterfly Pavilion or the zoo. Those places tend to do an awful lot of stuff. There tend to be a bunch of pumpkin patches and so forth. There's lots and lots and lots of opportunity to do that. I just need to
get those Halloween cards that your students can pass out when trick-or-treaters come to their house. Very helpful this time of year. Also, it's the combined of all your marketing that makes it work so well. It's not that you're doing any one thing. That's why doing bandit signs or rack cards work better when you've been in the schools and you've been at the fair and you've been at the mall and you've been at the movie theater. And now they go, oh, that's those guys we saw there. And having that big balloon kicker up in front of your school where people anybody in your center is going to know that without even looking at the signs that that's going to be a martial arts school. Those kind of things are little simple things that you should be taking advantage of too. Okay, that's all I have, Master Oliver. Will to be continued tomorrow.
Sounds good. Okay, talk to you in a bit.